Second time lucky, everybody. Welcome to MindAbility Matters. I'm sorry about that if you tuned in and then we disappeared. The joys of technology. So, MindAbility Matters, we're back and we've got a very different flavour for the next few weeks. We're also hosting DisruptHR Dallas, and I really want to showcase some of the brilliant speakers who are making an effort to come into DFW to really explain what they're doing to make a difference in the world of work. And what better way to start it off with Rodney. Rodney came to us and is already an expert speaker. And when we saw what he was talking about and the great work he's doing, we just had to have him come along. Rather than me wax lyrical about him, Rodney, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank the audience, your audience members, and I want to thank you, Sam, for hosting this fabulous show and having me on here. But I'm Rodney Lawson, and I am founder and principal owner of Rodney Lawson LLC, and it's broken into three different entities. Number one, I do a lot of professional speaking. Number two, I do executive coaching under a program called Opulence Elite, and then number three, I have what I call a membership group underneath the armor. And that's essentially a safe space for management leaders and entrepreneurs to take their armor off, come in, voice their concerns, and get all types of tips, tools, and techniques to help them out. Because when you're in the workplace or when you're out there in the world, you have that armor on. And we don't want to take it off a lot of times because we fear being judged, you know? And so that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. I've got about 23 years as a corporate executive. I left the corporate world about 4 years ago to start this consulting company. So that's a little bit about me.
Rodney, I love it. And I know when we got all the submissions through and, obviously we're checking out people's LinkedIn. There was one stat that really stood out for me. And it was the fact that you've helped increase some sales for certain clients in the sales leadership by 77%. I mean, that's phenomenal. How did you
Yeah.
do it?
Well, first of all, I got to first give credit to the man upstairs. And I think, Sam, if I have to, it goes back to my unique upbringing, my background. And I'm going to be a little bit transparent here and just share that I grew up with an alcoholic and an abusive father.
Oh, wow.
And in that particular case, as a child, and I learned this through therapy, that you develop a ACE. It is your adverse childhood experience. And so my ACE of watching my father not wanting to make many mistakes and kind of being able to pivot, it honed skill sets in the areas of resiliency, of being strategic. And also it gave me a skill set that is not really positive. It made me a type of a person that did not like rejection, right? And so by learning all of those things about me, it helped me to further understand myself and understand how to overcome certain situations. So I'll give you an example. In that particular case and helping that organization, it's a matter of peeling back the onion, understanding where we are, where our opportunities lies within the sales process. Okay. And then we fine tune and tweak those individual areas in the sales process, measure that performance, and then it's a rinse and repeat type of situation. And so throughout my corporate career, I can share with you that I've experienced many successes because of that particular or those particular skill sets that I developed early on. And it came at a very early age. I jumped in the corporate world around the age of 18.
Wow.
By the age of 19, I was in a leadership position. And by the age of 22, 23, I had amassed a six-figure salary in the corporate world with just a high school diploma. I ascended really, really quickly because of that ability to strategically look at things, pick them apart, and understand how to improve them. But then most importantly, something that we're going to talk about in the DisruptHR Dallas talk is having the right attitude, having the right emotional temperament, because we all have triggers, right? And so because I understood what my triggers were, it better helped me to analyze my situation and place me in positions where I could market myself From a positive exposure standpoint, which is where I see a lot of people go wrong, they end up marketing themselves from a negative exposure standpoint, and they don't realize it because they don't have the right emotional temperament.
I think there's a lot in that, and I agree with you. It's about a down to earth aspirational mindset, I think, isn't it? It's and being able to share that. So when someone wants to work with you or they're wanting to achieve something, it's not, I can't do this, I want to be like you. It's, I always think that the most flattering thing is, if you can do it, I can do it. Brilliant. Yes.
Yes, that is certainly true. But I'll add one small caveat to that. We all are individuals, and we all have individual superpowers that I call them. And if you understand what your superpowers are, then you can take that mental aspect of, because this person did it, I can do it. But let me see how I can tweak this to work best with my powers. Okay.
Yes.
And that's one of the ways in which I help transform executives and even lower level management individuals who are just starting out. I work with them as well. But I get them to see what their powers are and how they can incorporate what they're learning or what they're going through or their experiences so that they manifest those for the greater good, bringing in that positive exposure versus negative exposure.
How do, I'd like to take you back to when you first
Yes.
started in corporate, because
Hmm.
that rise is phenomenal, particularly at such a young age in corporate, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
matter if you're in
Hmm.
corporate Britain or corporate America. That's phenomenal. How did you overcome those, if you like, the ageism um, biases there? Because that must have been tough as well.
Well, I could say yes and no.
Okay.
On the surface, it looks tough, but underneath the surface, it was also what my father had built within me from a resilience standpoint. One, he raised my siblings and I to be extremely confident individuals. And, because of that, it allowed me to seek out things for myself and not necessarily understand or reject things if they weren't a part of me. And I'll give you a very, very clear example or case study, Sam.
Brilliant.
So 1 week after I started in the corporate world, I was asked after training to write down a short-term goal and a long-term goal. The long-term goal I wrote down, I wanted to be a vice president, and I put the company in parentheses, whether it was there or someplace else, because I liked the environment, right? It was comfortable in the winter, it was comfortable in the summer. And then about 2 to 3 days later, my supervisor pulled me into a conference room and asked me about my goals. And she took out the piece of paper and we started discussing them. And she said, your short-term goal is fine. I think it was something like to hit my sales plan. She said, you're doing extremely well, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's focus on your long-term goal. And I said, okay. She said, why did you choose this? I said, because I love the environment, so I want to move up in the company. And she said, did you think about anything else that you might want to accomplish as a goal, long-term goal, rather than this? And I said, no. So she asked a couple more questions, Sam, and it still makes me emotional to this day because I can picture her face when she said to me, Rodney, you might want to choose something that's a little more realistic. Yeah, I was, I, I was crushed on the inside, but remember what I said about rejection?
Yeah.
When handling rejection, like for me, I do one of three things. I run from it, I stick my head in the sand and ignore it, or I fight it.
Yeah.
And I have learned that all three of those mechanisms work, but they work in different situations.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, I chose to fight it. Okay. So internally, I did not say to her what I wanted to say because I probably would have been terminated in that role.
Exactly.
But here's what I did say. I said to her, you asked me to write my goals down on that piece of paper, and that's exactly what I did. With all due respect, you'll never ever get me to change one single word on it. Can I go back to my desk and finish making my sales? She said, absolutely. To this day, Sam, I have no idea what she did with that piece of paper. But I tell you what I do know. She watched me get promoted 14 times in 12 years. She watched me get promoted to a supervisor where I was a peer of hers, within a year. And when I left that company, I was senior director over their most complex office, in the company. I had 687 employees from over 50 different countries around the world. We were 55% customer service, 45% sales. We took calls in 10 different languages in customer service, and we made outbound sales calls in 10 different languages in on the sales side of the house. Now, here's the fascinating part. Other directors that preceded me had managed that particular location as well, but they did not accomplish what I was able to accomplish. Within 4 months, I had taken that office to winning the prestigious, what they would call top center award at our Circle of Excellence event. And it was solely because of something that I thought I understood, which was setting goals and keeping people focused and all of that, but it wasn't. It was centered around the 4 essential values of leadership. And I talk about this in my TEDx talk: love, trust, honesty, and respect. And because I exemplified those things within one of the cultures in the building, and I'll just share a little bit with you. And this is in my TEDx talk. I allowed one of the groups to pray when it was against company policy to allow that. I allowed them to do it anyway because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And because I did that, what I did not know at the time is that they got together later on that week in their community and they said, this is the only director that allowed us to pray in our workplace where we spend the majority of our time outside of our homes. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure this man is successful. Now, after we had won this top center award 2 consecutive times for 2 consecutive quarters, one of the individuals came into my office, and we were just chatting about it. And he said to me, "You don't even know why we won that award, do you?" And I said, "I do." I said, "We set goals and we went out and accomplished them. You guys did a phenomenal job." He said, "That's not why we won that award." And he shared that experience with me. He shared with me how they got together and they decided, we're going to push and push and push and do everything to help you because you are the only one that respects our religion, even though it's not your own.
God,
And
how
so,
powerful is that?
yeah.
And there's so much. I often say that the world, we've lost our good grace. I don't think we all have to agree with one another.
Right.
But listening
Mm-hmm.
to one another's perspectives is so important. And that's come across so loud and clear with what you were saying there. And I had a similar experience, funnily enough, but mine was much, much earlier on. I took a very different course in that I did vocational training, and my heavier qualifications, if you like, came throughout my career. But I remember my headmistress saying to my parents that, "Oh, Sam might as well just go and marry a farmer." That's all she's kind of good for, or
Yeah.
is the implication. And it's like that, it stays with you, right? That story you've shared has stayed with you. But I think, where you and I've done very similar things is really, rather than take that and it weigh heavy on us, actually
Mm-hmm.
turn it into a positive, which is, I don't have to accept that.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely 100% correct, and I'm glad you recognized that early on and in that moment. For me, it was the experience of living and growing up in a household where there were times when we would get our electricity and our gas cut off because my father didn't pay the bill. And it wasn't that he didn't have the money to pay the bill. He had a very good job. He worked in the automobile industry for a number of years. It was just that at times he would take his paycheck on Fridays and he would go and gamble with it and drink, and there would be no money left for the bill. And so when those things happened to me growing up and I experienced that, I knew in my mind I never wanted to live my life like that. So when this supervisor was telling me this, I was thinking in my mind and in my heart, you don't know me. You don't know where
Mm.
I come from. You don't know what I've been through. You can't possibly determine my future and tell me what I can and cannot accomplish. And that was my line of thinking at the time. Now, I will share this with you in all transparency. What she was looking at is not the product that you're looking at and viewing today. I talked with a lot of colloquialism, a lot of broken English. I was a product out of the hip hop culture. And I wasn't refined in my communication. I wasn't refined in the way that I carried myself. But I knew that if I did two things, just two things in life, and these two things sticks with me to this day. If I just had a burning purpose for what I wanted to accomplish, because that purpose was going to keep my faith high, right? If I had a burning purpose so that when I face obstacles, I would be able to overcome them because that purpose was so strong. And the second thing was keep an open mind for development. And so let me give you an example of some of the things that I did. Every 2 weeks when I got my paycheck, I would take 10% of my gross paycheck and I would calculate it out, and it had to go towards my professional wardrobe. I would go and put a suit on layaway. And for those who may not know what layaway means, it means that you put money down on an item and you don't get it at that moment. Whenever you can pay off the full price, that's when you pick it up. But they hold it for you where no one else can purchase it. Okay. So I would put a suit on layaway. I would either get one off layaway. I would either buy some shoes or socks or get my shirts dry clean. But it had to go towards my professional wardrobe. You see, Sam, I knew that before I even opened my mouth, people were going to judge me. And I watched and I observed, like I talked about early on, the skill sets that I developed in the household growing up, right? I didn't just watch the supervisors, I watched the managers above them. I watched the senior manager above the managers. And I wanted to position myself so that I could perform like them or better than them. And so that was one of the areas that I focused on. The other area was, another area was refining my communication. Another area was, how could I strategically do something with my people when I got into a leadership position that others were not doing, right? And these are all little things that set me apart from my peers, because whether we realize it or not, when we are in a job, we essentially, man, we're in competition with one another for that next promotion, that next level.
Mm.
Yeah. So again, I commend you for not succumbing to what someone's impression of you was, right? I think it was someone, I can't remember who said this, but it was, if you look at a man or women as they are on the outside, they cannot get any better. But if you take the time to observe what a man and woman is like on the inside, now they can be great.
I
But
love
too
that.
many times we judge what's on the outside. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally, totally. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's, and it seems to be getting worse as well. Monica, brilliant. I remember
Yeah,
layaway.
so yeah, I don't know if they have that today, Monica, but yeah, it was layways back in the day. Yeah. I'm pretty seasoned. So this was a while ago.
For anyone starting out today
Hmm.
who is going into corporate America,
Hmm.
um, and wants to maybe go a different route rather than what everyone says they should be doing, what's your advice to them?
My advice would be those two things. Number one, you have to know, actually, I'm gonna give you a third thing, but you
Yeah.
have to know exactly what it is, the why behind it. Okay. That's how you build your purpose. That's how you build your drive. That's how you build your faith, right? You have to know the why behind it. Okay. The second thing is keep an open mind so that you can continue to develop yourself along the way. And then the third thing is, and I'll highlight this, and this came through, just going through therapy with some of the experiences that I had gone through in my life. You have to get to know yourself. Once you realize yourself, what you're good at, what your superpowers are, and most importantly, what your triggers are. And these are things and items that I call what sits underneath your armor, right? What's under your armor, your confidence level, your self-esteem, your triggers, right? It's important that you know what your triggers are so that you know what to put in place to help combat that when you feel like you're being attacked. So once you know yourself, right? And once you know how to develop yourself by keeping an open mind, and once you have a burning purpose behind what it is you want, those three things work together almost like a three-link chain, taking you from where you are to where you want to go.
I love that. Yeah, and totally, Monica. Don't judge a book by its cover. Look at the inner
Right.
being. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny, Monica and I had just a beautiful moment when we were finding the venue. Well, Monica found the venue for DisruptHR Dallas. In fact, Monica's done so much, couldn't do this without her. Um, but we had this glorious moment where we were down in the truck yard.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd been talking all day, and we must have been silent for what, 30 minutes, Monica? And it was the most peaceful silence of just, we were chilling, great connection.
Nice.
And it was lovely. And again, when you go back to, don't judge a book by its cover, and the whole thing about just,
Mm-hmm.
how we observe something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the story behind it. And that's what's come across so clearly for me today, Rodney, with your story, because you're absolutely right. You do come across as exceptionally polished. And I'm in huge admiration for what you've achieved and what you've done with your career.
Thank you.
Phenomenal TEDx speaker. You're demonstrating it here today, that your experience and expertise, and I am very excited to hear your story at Disrupt HR Dallas.
Sam, two things I'm unapologetic for: my spirituality with God, and I am an emotional man. I do cry. I cry a lot, and I'll explain why. Growing up, in the situation that I grew up in, I did not cry. I held it in, and it wasn't until going through therapy that I realized I have to release these things and let it go, because if not, it pins up, and then it becomes like an explosive type of moment, and you don't
Mm.
want those. And so, because of that, I let my emotions flow. And when I'm moved by something like what you just said, it does make me emotional, and I will let my emotions flow. So thank you for that.
You are very welcome. Yeah, and I've had several moments on the stage where the same thing has happened
Mhm.
to me, where I've shared a bit about my story, particularly the part where I had a partner who died suddenly, went out one day, and I literally dropped dead. Um,
Wow.
and I was talking about the resilience aspect of it. I'd been traveling and traveling and traveling, and I come back from the States. I had a couple of down days, went on the stage to talk about resilience, and boom, I couldn't hold it together and literally had to kind of turn around and just breathe and breathe.
Yeah.
What came out next, what I had planned, I completely threw out the window,
Hmm.
and I ran a workshop. It was
Wow.
very raw, it was very emotional, and I did get a bit potty mouth, but at the time, with the group and the room and the
Hmm.
everything else, it
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
worked. So yeah, I hear you. It's about that authenticity, isn't it? Right? We
And
all
that's the.
strive to be better and more polished, but we can't lose sight of us.
But I got a question for you. Who determines what better is? And I,
That's a
and I,
great
and it's a
question.
rhetorical question, right? I'm not asking you to answer that literally. I'm just saying, who determines what better is? Because what you did in that moment, Sam, with your authenticity, with you breaking down and being real, what you did was you brought the audience into your world. Too many times we want to take the audience into a world that is familiar, a world that we've seen other people do or take part in. But in that moment, something happened. Just like when you talked about you and Monica went to that space and you just had a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
At that moment, you were thinking and you were looking at, wow, we're going to bring people into this world, right? And so I'm always a proponent of, bring people into your world. When you have that microphone, or when you have that audience, or when you have that stage, right? And it can be a stage of one on one, right? Bring people into your world. You know, too many times I've watched executives and management personnel not really connect with their employees
Oh,
because they don't allow that person to see their world, right? They don't allow them to see that they're human, right? And the more you do that, the more you'll get the other person to understand. And this is a breakdown. It'll break down regardless of generation gaps. You know, some people say, "Oh, it's hard dealing with millennials. They're this, they're that." No, 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 no. Just get to understand them and allow them to get to understand you and explain things. And see, this is one of the reasons why, for me, it was so important because I believed in it, for one, to get to know every last one of the different cultures in that facility that I managed, right? I wanted to understand more. You know, I had an employee, if I can share this one experience, I had an employee that came up to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Rodney, I need to take off next week because I'm going to meet my wife for the first time." He said, "My parents, you know, met the family, they arranged a marriage and they're flying her to the States and I'm going to meet her and we're going to get married." And I was just fascinated by it. Wait,
yeah,
you've never even talked to this? Because that's not, you know, that's not typically how we do it.
no,
But yeah, so we had like a 40-minute conversation on just that piece of it there. But it's, yeah, but it's understanding different cultures and learning people and just treating people with the respect that they deserve. You know, even people sometimes when you see in the social media where they're flying off the handle, they're disruptive, they're upset, they're this, they're that. You know, sometimes those particular individuals will have triggers inside, right? They may not have lived the life that you have lived. They may not understand the things that you understand. And that might be the only way that they know how to release it. You know,
yeah,
so if we take the time to be patient and try and understand, that is the best chance we'll have at connecting with them and getting through to them. Now, I'm not going to say that that always works. There are times that I believe that you have to hold people accountable as well, right? And if they don't, you know, meet the standards after coaching them, then of course you have to, you know, take further actions. And I do believe in that as well. But I will say this, throughout my entire career, for the 30 some odd years that I've been managing and leading people, the majority of the people that I've had to terminate in the leadership role is because they did not know how to treat people. And that is something I will never tolerate. I'll coach on it, but I have very little patience for that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
It,
respect is everything. Hmm.
it is respect and good grace. And something else that comes across loud and clear with you is that, and I can relate to it so well, it's that curiosity. You know, I
Hmm.
remember sitting in, you know, around executive committee tables and people were spousing and explaining something and I didn't understand. And I'd say, well, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Um,
Hmm.
but it took years to get to that point where I felt comfortable amongst my peers saying, I don't understand. Help me to understand that. Sorry, I'm sorry. You're going to have to treat me like a child. Still don't get it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and the amount of times, Rodney, that when we came out of that meeting, guess what someone said to me? Thank goodness you asked, Sam, because I hadn't got a clue what they were going on about.
That's
Why didn't you ask?
that's usually the case because we wear our armor. And in that moment, you were willing to take your armor down and be transparent and say, "Hey, look, I don't understand. Can you help me?" But a lot of people, they wear that armor because they fear of being judged. And I have seen people unbiasedly judged, or I should say, biasedly judged,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out for them. And so I understand why they do it, which is one of the reasons why I created the membership group underneath the armor, because I know personally that that exists. Yeah.
Rodney, tell us more about your services and the kind of, you shared so many great case studies, but I'd love you to share some more with some
Okay.
the services you offer.
Oh, okay. So there's three different entities. The first is the professional speaking. I do speaking at corporate events. I do emceeing. In fact, I have just signed a contract to do a speaking event in the oil and gas industry, which you may see on LinkedIn over the next few days. I'm not going to disclose
Right.
it yet. So I have that coming up in August. Um, so professional speaking, yes, I come in, I do talks, workshops. I have plenty of material around specific areas of a workshop, and it's customizable to that company, that organization. So I would say definitely reach out to me if that's something you're looking for. And then the second entity, I do executive coaching, but it's very, very limited. I will never take on more than 6 clients at a time.
Wow.
The way that it works is called Opulence Elite. This is my coaching program. Is that I require a 3-month minimum, right? And once they sign up for, the first 3 months, whatever the case may be, then we go month to month after that. So there's no long-term contract or anything like that. And if people stay with me as long as they want, and then once someone drops off, then I'll, take the next person on the waiting list. So that's kind of how it works. The reason that I stick it to or keep it at 6 is because I want to make sure that I have time and continue to have time for the other important things in my life, which is the speaking, right? Which is the membership, and which is the personal time, right? With my
Yeah.
wife and family. I love international travel. So I want to make sure that. So that's the second entity, the executive coaching. And then the third entity, people can sign up for my Underneath the Armor membership group. It's a lot less expensive, in the membership group than it is for the executive coaching program. There is a monthly fee. The membership is closed right now. I launched it about 3 weeks ago
Oh,
and brought on founding members. Yeah, so I'm working with the founding members over the next couple of months. And then what I'm planning on doing is opening it back up at the end of September timeframe in the fall. And then we'll take on new members for a couple of weeks. We'll shut the doors again for another 2 to 3 months so that we can pour in and work with those particular individuals. I want to make sure that every new member coming into this program get exactly what they're looking for, exactly what they need to help, but most importantly, the safe space, the sanctuary
yes.
where they can come in and share and get ideas, tips, tools, and techniques that they can take out on their job so that they can go from being unpromotable to promotable. Because there is a way to go about doing that. And that leads into actually my DisruptHR Dallas talk. Attitude is everything.
Exactly. And you beat me to it. I was going to say, let's talk about that. Um, I'm really looking forward to your talk. What can we expect without giving too much away?
Okay, let's see. Let me think about this because I don't want to give too much away.
I know.
Um, I will guarantee 3 things. Number one, engagement. Number two, I will say definitely a case study or story centered around the topic there. Your attitude being everything. And then I will say number three, I will also give some practical or pragmatic steps on how we avoid kind of certain things in that particular area. So trying to keep it as mysterious as possible.
Exactly. It's like, stop, don't push me.
Yeah, but if you can think about just your attitude is everything.
Mm.
I will share this. I think there was a study that was done. Let's see, it was by a company called recruitingnewsnetwork.com, and they said that 89% stated that their new hire failed in the area of soft skills, right? And that's because they lack the emotional temperament that I talked about early on. And this was analyzed amongst, I think there were about, I think there were 1,400 HR executives and 20,000 employees that they had surveyed.
Mm.
And that's a pretty high number when you think about
It is.
89% of the people, that's the reason that they failed. It wasn't because of their technical skills, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about it, look at it in this way. I also do a session on interviewing and interviewing skills and how to hire the right person, because a lot of times we look at technical skills and we look at competencies, but we don't look at, do they fit the culture? Okay.
Yes.
I remember, a time building a sales division or account management sales division for one of the companies that I worked for in the past. And the directors that I was leading, I said, listen, now, as we build this division out, everybody that we hire, they're going to have 3 things. Number one, they got to be professional.
Mm.
Number two, we want people that are hard workers. And then number three, we want to make sure that there are people that love to have fun. And when I tell you, Sam, we came across a lot of people that were hard workers and they were professional, but they did not know how to have fun. And so we didn't hire them. We didn't want that mentality in our environment. And so what we ended up with a community or a culture within our account management division that loved each other, that helped each other, that had a lot of fun, and we broke a lot of records in the performance metrics that we were encountering. So yeah,
You gotta have fun, right?
yes,
I
I
work for
believe in that.
yeah, I work for a large American investment bank, and you know, I don't think they did know how to have fun. We thought we did, but I don't actually think we did. We let off steam. We didn't have fun.
Yeah.
Conversely, when I really got into the world of media, boy, they knew how to, work hard and play hard, and that was fun.
Hmm.
I agree with you because it gives you that connection. They
Hmm.
say, don't they, that people connect the most round a table and doing an activity together. I've seen it time and time
Yep.
again, both professionally and personally. It's yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Rodney, normally
Yes.
what I do is I have three light-hearted questions.
Okay.
So, I'd like to ask them of you if that's okay.
Absolutely. And I'm totally transparent, so you can ask me anything.
Okay. So the first one is, what's your favorite cheese?
My favorite cheese. Wow. It is smoked Gouda.
Oh, good one.
I love smoked Gouda. I will put that on anything.
I know what you'll be doing later. So my next one
Uh-huh.
is, out of all the programs and films you've watched this year, what are those ones that you've watched that you think I will never get those moments of my life back again?
Ooh, that is a difficult one because I love movies. I use movies a lot in my teaching and trainings. Even in the past, in the corporate world, there were times where I would take my management staff aside and we would watch a movie, have popcorn, and then I would have questions for them, right? Leadership
Brilliant
principles
idea.
within the movie. Like one of my favorite is The Gladiator because there's so many leadership principles in there about how they
Yeah,
followed Maximus and how, he showed, if you think about it, love, trust, honesty, and respect, right?
very
Is
much
is
so.
throughout that movie. But one of the ones that I would love to get my time back from, oh gosh, um, that's a really tough question, Sam, because
I
every movie that I've seen, I was able to pick something up from it. Gosh, I'm gonna have to get back with you on that one. You stumped me. I let's see. Uh,
it's a
um,
you either have one that comes to mind, and I think there was only once
mhm,
in my entire lifetime that I walked out of a film and I just started being disruptive. I wasn't being rude, but I started to get
mhm,
my
mhm,
phone out and I was looking down here and people
mhm.
started looking around. I thought I really need to get out of this environment now.
Um, I've never really walked out of a movie. I think that one of the things that is disappointing is when you have a interpretation of what a movie is or what it should be based off the trailers and all of that. And then when you go see it, it's not that at all. It's something totally different. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was an action movie where um, some of the action sequences were just so goshly unbelievable that it was like, come on, and it was so predictable, but I can't remember the name of it. It was in the early 2000s. But I just remember they were driving motorcycles on top of a train and jumping over stuff on top of a train on a motorcycle. And it's like, while the train was moving right at a rapid rate, like that just didn't really resonate well with me. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I know Ice Cube was in it.
Oh
He was one of the
wow.
actors. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and that was one where I would say, that wasn't really my cup of tea.
I'm gonna have to look it up now. So my last one, and I've had the most wacky, fabulous, and wonderful answers to this, is
Uh-huh.
picture you and the family are going on a vacation and you're taking flotation devices with you. What what flotation devices would you take with you and why?
A flotation device. I would probably have to say my life, um, my business life, and my personal life is intertwined with my electronic equipment. Okay. So I do a lot from my phone. In fact, I am a international best-selling author, Broken, Inspired, and Driven, a book that I wrote and published in 2016. And I wrote probably about 80% of that book on my iPhone on
Oh,
airplanes.
wow.
Yeah, what I would do is write. I took an uncanny approach. I didn't develop chapters for the book. I just wrote down topics that I wanted to talk about. And every day, whatever topic I feel like writing in, I will write in that particular topic. And then when I got about 80% of the way done, I would then start to categorize chapter one, chapter two, chapter three. But up until that point, that's how I was writing, right? So I was writing in airports, airplanes, um, restaurants, right? Anytime I felt time and felt something came to mind, oh, let me put that in
Yeah.
this section, I would write. And so from a flotation device standpoint, there's this device that my wife got when we took our honeymoon to beautiful Bora Bora.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, yeah. She got us these flotation devices that we could put our cell phones in so that we could take it to the beach and not have to worry about if we dropped it or whatever, the phone wouldn't get wet, it would float. And so that's the flotation device. If I had to go with something, it would be that.
That's ingenious. Brilliant. That's a really unique answer. I love it. And thank you. The name of that film is Are We There Yet?
No, wait. It wasn't that one. I enjoyed that one. That was with the kids. The kids were giving him a hard time. I think it was before that, Sam. I think it was before. Monica got it. XXX. I think it was the first XXX because there were
Oh,
several of them. Yes, I believe that's it, Monica.
there you go. You see, we got there in the end. Group effort.
And somebody on LinkedIn said they walked out on Miami Vice 2006.
I didn't go and see that. It was like I was good with the series. Do you know what I mean? I always
Yeah.
worry sometimes when you have these sequels. It's like, don't
Mhm.
I? You know, you could be so disappointed.
Yeah. Monica's good. You got that.
Oh,
That's it. That's
brilliant,
it. XXX.
brilliant. Rodney, before we get to September, I know,
Yes.
gosh, I'm so looking forward to having you in that room and on the stage. If people are watching this today and they're saying, actually, I love his vibe, I love everything he's doing, I need Rodney in my life, how do they best get in touch with you?
It's very simple. I'm gonna give you two simple ways. Number one, bookwithrodney.com is where you can get on my schedule for 20 minutes and we can talk about whatever it is you want and we can see if there's synergies there on how I can help elevate your situation or whatever you're looking to do. Or I'll give you my direct email. It's rodney@rodneylawson.com. It's very simple. And shoot me an email message. I look forward to talking with you and we can hook up and see about synergies on how I can help you in that realm as well. So
Brilliant, brilliant. And now can you see why we're so excited, everyone, by what's taking place in September? Rodney is just an absolute sheer delight, and I'm
oh,
so thankful
thank you.
that you put your submission in and that we've got the opportunity to chat today. I'd like to thank everyone who's been here today. What a great conversation, huh? I love these lives, even when the technology goes wrong. That's what makes it so special, right? It's still
Yeah,
good.
we'll just pivot.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. And if you haven't got your tickets yet for Disrupt HR Dallas, please do so. It's one not to miss. It's going to be great conversation, great networking, and just a really good vibe, a room full of good people. So, without further ado, it's bye from me.
And
Bye
bye
from
from me.
Rodney, too. And goodbye to the music.